and welcome to Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Justin High, the President and CEO of wellness business Rebalance Health. Justin, hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me, Lee. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm really interested to learn more about this. In a super high level, this is all about our hormones, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, talk us through it. What's the problem that you guys solve with the company mission, and what inspired you to go on that?
Great. So yeah, the Rebalance Health is essentially a cortisol company. We
Okay.
focus on cortisol. Quite simply, we believe that the world is suffering from high levels of anxiety, elevated cortisol levels, which interrupts our body's ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep for the duration of time that we need in order to produce the amount of hormones so that we can function the next day. It's a real simple cause and effect. The reason why we are suffering from high levels of cortisol is simply because if you go back 30 years, that was the invention of the cell phone, the iPhone, email, the internet, and that has just expanded our ability to communicate 24/7. And not only has communication exploded, but content has exploded. I always use an analogy. I was born in the 70s. When I wanted to go watch a movie with my family, we went to the cinema, or we'd go to the video store before Blockbuster and we'd rent a movie, and it would be one movie a weekend type thing. You hear about people binge watching whole series today, right? And constant content, and it is interfering with our body's natural circadian rhythm, which prevents us from getting the proper sleep that we need. If you think about it, every time the email goes off, a bing on the cell phone, a text, even messages that come through social platforms, you don't know if it's good news or bad news. And so your anxiety levels are increasing, your cortisol levels are increasing. And this is a problem because at the end of the day, if our cortisol isn't as low as possible as we start to get ready to go to bed, we won't fall asleep quickly. And that's where our monkey brain takes over and we're thinking about what we have to do. Did I check this? Is the stove still on? Where are the kids? Did I take the dog out? Did my emails go through? Did someone respond to my proposal? Did I pay the bills? 101 things go through, right? And if we aren't in a calm place, we can't fall asleep. And if our monkey brain is going, we're restless and we might wake up multiple times. For a certain age, all of a sudden we might need the bathroom multiple times a night. That all is not normal, and that disrupts our body's ability to get deep sleep, which is where we make our hormones. We make all our hormones we need for the next day in our deep sleep. And so you go through light, deep REM sleep multiple times, and it's in that deep sleep component of the REM cycle where you make your sex hormones, primarily your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all those hormones that you need for the following day. And if you get less than 60 to 90 minutes of deep sleep, you won't make the right amount of hormones you need to function the next day, and you're operating at a deficit. And that hormone deficit then shows up in many ways. Lack of energy, you gain weight, you have low libido, you lose your hair, skin, and nails don't show up so well, you lose your muscle mass, you just don't have the energy, and your body doesn't get to recover from what it was doing the night before, the day before, the week before. And so really it all comes down to cortisol for us, and that's why we focused on cortisol as kind of the master hormone. And if we could bring cortisol back into normal levels, higher in the morning, lower in the afternoon, and as little as possible at night, then you should be able to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Sure. And I'm listening to you and I'm nodding away there because everything just resonates for me. As you know, I'm based in the UK, and all of my customers are based in the US, which means that I'm already working at least a 5-hour deficit. So a lot of the time I get customers, clients, candidates, whatever, messaging me late at night. And you mentioned it before, if your phone goes off, you're like, oh, is this good news? Is it bad news? It could be either, but either way, the anxiety goes up.
You have to answer it. You have to read it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's the problem is, you kind of hit it on the head with that. we were given access to this amazing technology, but we weren't taught how to use it within the parameters of what's best for the human body in terms of our
Yeah.
health and our mental health. And so Silicon Valley's done a fabulous job of inventing all these technologies and these platforms, but without any true guidance on how to use them. And it's only after the fact that we're now worried about our kids and how much screen time they should have. And, is it appropriate content, and is there access for bullying and all this,
Shit.
identity theft? There's so much that goes on now in this world that's so fast that even the technology companies have a tough time keeping up with it, right? It is constantly evolving and changing. And that is the root cause, in my opinion, as to why we have a hormonal pandemic right now globally, at least in the modern world.
So what's the solution now? What's the product here?
So really, it's an interesting cause and effect. We didn't really worry too much about trying and finding the last ingredient in the Amazon that has been tapped and that we can finally release it to the population. We basically went back to Ayurvedic cultures, we went back to Chinese cultures and found the best ingredients, natural ingredients. And we focused on two things. One, delivery. What's the best way of getting the products into the body? And number two, what's the cadence of that product?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start with cadence. We took into consideration metabolism for a very important reason. Your body is designed to utilize whatever you put in it every 4 to 6 hours. That's why you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Yeah.
It's why you might have snacks in between. Your body is burning the energy, the fuel that you put inside of it. When you go into Western medicine, you look at antibiotics, pain medication, cold, flu medication, all of the instructions are the same. Repeat every 4 to 6 hours.
Sure.
And so they're taking into metabolism, but the supplement world hasn't ever considered it based on the research that we've done. There's very few companies, if any, that say you need to take this throughout the day at different intervals. Homeopathic is one that has, for sure. And homeopathics, as you know, little tablets you put under your tongue and you let them dissolve. The second thing we took into consideration was delivery. Now, we know because we've done the research and they're available for everyone to read on NIH websites, Harvard Medical Review, they're available, that 90% of supplements that we consume in the modern world never ever get into our bodies. Yes, they get into our stomachs, and that's where they die because our acids in our stomach are so powerful that they can't survive. In medical school, you're taught that you can actually eat and digest carpet. So what hope does a natural ingredient like a cordyceps mushroom or a maca or an ashwagandha have at surviving in that kind of environment where the body is designed to break whatever you consume down? So we know the best level of delivery is a subcutaneous injection, but that would mean that we would be a drug because that's the only way that you're allowed is to go through all the regulatory requirements. The next best is a nasal spray or a sublingual lozenge. And those sublingual lozenges are something that were used during the pandemic and recommended through zinc, right? So the government recommended a zinc lozenge in order to support your body's ability to reduce any COVID type infections. And what was interesting, they didn't recommend a zinc gummy or a zinc tablet, but it was a zinc lozenge. And we were paying attention. And so when we did our research on delivery, it seemed like the subcutaneous injection would be the best, but we weren't willing to go down that route. The sublingual lozenge seemed like a better alternative than a nasal spray. And so based on simple customer feedback, it was a no-brainer. So we decided to go around the lozenge route. And we have a system where you take a lozenge in the morning, you take a lozenge in the afternoon, and you take a lozenge before bed. Now, all three lozenges, the afternoon, the morning, and the evening, are different formulations. They're not dramatically different, but they are about 70% different from one another to support the body at different times of the day where you have different needs and requirements. Most people need energy and get up and go in the morning. Not many people need the get up and go in the morning that you would see in the afternoon. In fact, you want to wind down in the afternoon, and I like to call it the transition between work mode and play mode.
Yeah.
right? Most people want to hang out with their kids, their buddies, they go to the gym, they work out, they do other things, but you don't need the same type of mental capacity you would as most would need at 9 a.m. in the morning when you're getting
Yeah.
ready for your career. And at bedtime, you need it to be shut down. You need as little cortisol as possible, and you want the melatonin to release naturally in the body so that that gets you ready for your sleep cycle and you wind down. So that's what's different. It's a solution that involves a lot of ingredients. We have 21 ingredients in these lozenges. And because they're not being destroyed in the gut, right, we can actually put less ingredients in the product so
Yeah.
that you can actually absorb it. And so when you look at most supplements, they give you horse pills, right, because they don't know how much is going to survive. There's no way of measuring it. There's absolutely no way of measuring it. There's no assay that's been developed or
Yeah.
anything of that sort to be able to say, you need X amount of ashwagandha, you need X amount of cordyceps, X amount of reishi mushroom. There's nothing. You can't measure it. So it's a wild guess. And so we kind of took the lid off this and go, well, we don't know. So what we did is we actually did our own clinical studies.
Okay.
And out of it came something unprecedented, which is we found that our product actually helps men, women, children, of course, with anxiety and cortisol, but very specifically, menopausal women.
Wow.
And we did a hot flash study with over 104 menopausal women that were not on any type of HRT. And we saw 100% efficacy in the study, not one side effect. But the average reduction in menopausal symptoms, including hot flashes, in the study group was an 80% reduction.
Oh, wow.
And that was all based on the fact that the the anxiety levels and the cortisol levels were coming down. The body was able to get the regeneration it needs, the 7 to 8 hours of sleep, so the body could naturally make the hormones it needs in order to function the next day. The body is smart. Technology is getting in the way.
Yeah.
And what this gets in the way of our sleep. So if we can get back to realizing that we haven't evolved as human beings, we're the same human beings we have always been. We still need sleep. We still need food and we
Really
still need
interesting.
water. And this has changed the way that we live our lives.
And so you mentioned the menopausal women sort of channel there, and does this apply to men as well?
Yes, I mean, men go through andropause, which is, a natural transition from when we were, in our early 20s, where we're the height of our hormone development for men and women. And then it's slowly declining, not to be morbid about it, but, we are slowly decreasing our hormone production. And men go through andropause between their mid 30s and their 70s. So we go through an equivalent of menopause, but for 40 years, where
Right.
women go through menopause 7 to 14 years. So we go through it in much longer time. So our symptoms are almost untraceable.
Sure.
But if you think about it, we're losing our hair, we are gaining weight, we are
Yeah.
losing our muscle mass,
Physical
we are,
performance, exactly.
yeah, mental clarity is becoming,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, but it's just not turned up to 11 like women do in menopause. It's like down there at, 1 or 2 for most men. And it's a slow, gradual progression of aging and a reduction in hormones. But anxiety is still, and cortisol is still the primary cause of the majority of our symptoms that we suffer from today. And so, yes, we have a product for women, hot flashes. We have a product for men called testosterone, and we have a product for both called anxiety. All three do the same thing. They support cortisol.
Love
But
it.
most people don't go into the store going, I have hot flashes, where's your
Yeah.
cortisol section? Or I have low testosterone, where's your cortisol section? It's too many derivatives removed from the underlying symptoms.
So how did you arrive here then, Justin? What's your story? Share a little bit for the listeners.
Um, well, my last company we started was called Elastin Skincare, and it is a medical grade, basically wound healing skincare line that we launched and then transitioned into anti-aging. It was a very successful company that was acquired by Galderma in 21-22. And during that process, Nestle reached out to us and said, hey, you guys seem to be experts in delivery, because this was a peptide delivery for skincare of its type with the, efficacy, clinical studies, etc., and hugely successful and efficacious. And so Destiny's like, can you develop a skincare product for us, but as a supplement? And so we did a deep dive into researching the market, and we thought, it's a great idea, but we don't see it as being as accepted by the customers because customers are used to putting something for their skin on topically, not taking something orally. And so we weren't 100% convinced that that was a worthwhile endeavor. But we were always interested in hormones, HRT, testosterone, HGH, things like that. The benefits of HGH is used in Europe is that it helps you recover very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The downside is in America, it is not recognized, and there's a fear of a systemic effect that could be happening. Therefore, we pivoted from HGH in our formulation in the skincare line to the peptides. But we went back and revisited HGH and we looked at endocrinology and we're like, why is the world accelerating in their HRT kind of product line? Why are people being diagnosed and given HRT all the time? Sorry about the background noise there. Do you want to hit pause and I can try and turn that off?
Can't hear anything, Justin. It's perfectly fine.
Okay, sorry. I'm getting a lot of background noise there. Sorry. So once we decided we were going to look at endocrinology, we kind of took a deep dive and we were looking at peptides in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And in the marketplace, there were a lot of peptides like CJC Morelin, IPA Morelin, Sermorelin. And we were like, wow, these are huge markets. What's going on? And sure enough, in 2019, the FDA deemed them all biologics and shut it down. And so you can't consume any of those. They're not for human consumption. Last but not least, we're like, well, okay, let's pivot towards a natural solution using natural ingredients and go into the nutraceutical market and look at endocrinology. And there were very little products in the marketplace. Funnily enough, about the same time, my wife was diagnosed with Cushing's disease, which is an overdevelopment of cortisol.
Right.
And so it became very personal for me. And I started really looking into cortisol, into endocrinology, and figuring out what was going on with the body. And out of that came this product line. And, because it was kind of a personal mission for me, I wasn't willing to compromise on any of the ingredients or any of the science. And we invested a lot of time, effort, and money into developing this product line. The hot flash solution was kind of an outcome that wasn't anticipated or expected. We knew we'd have some support on the endocrinology. We'd have some support in reducing hormonal issues with endocrinology outcomes, but we didn't think it would come to that serious of a benefit for women. I mean, literally, we have women calling us on a day-to-day basis, crying, thanking us, saying, "You've changed my life."
Wow.
I thought I was at wit's end. I'm re-engaging with my family. It's back to being me again. I want to be intimate. I want to be touched. I want to be hugged, versus I'm 110 degrees with all these hot flashes. I don't want anyone to touch me, right? Even had some women call and say, funny enough, my kids keep reminding me, "Mommy, how you taking your magic pills?" Because they notice a difference in how the women are showing up. But at the same time, men are saying the same thing. I'm sleeping. I'm nicer. I'm more energetic. I can think clearly. And it's like, wow, all because you're able to sleep. And so a lot of people have said, well, why don't you just take the sleep product? Because it's not about the last few minutes before you want to go to bed. You've got to control cortisol throughout the day and the afternoon so that it's at the right level so that you can be low in the afternoon and fall asleep.
100%. And also it's about waking up as well, isn't it? Because if you have a sleeping tablet, you're waking up and you're groggy until about 3 p.m.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There's tons of studies that say sleeping aids don't work. Now, I'm not talking about sleep apnea devices. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about physical sleeping pills that people take. It's been well documented and again, well proven out there that these sleeping pills don't put you into a natural circadian rhythm when you sleep, and therefore you don't get the deep sleep you need. So a lot of people wake up and they're like, I feel horrible. I know I slept 10 hours, But the reason is you didn't get the deep sleep and your body wasn't able to make the hormones you need to function. And that's why you wake up in a daze. And so doctors are now not prescribing sleep aids because of that exact reason.
Interesting stuff. Just, I mean, so you guys are a D2C company. What comes next? What can you share for the listeners? What's exciting?
With a lot of recognition coming out the next few weeks. There's a lot of magazines and big lists and companies that are kind of acknowledging what we're doing and supporting what we're doing and writing about us. So there's a lot of fun things coming out there. We've also changed our business model a little bit. We're finding it very difficult in this day and age to advertise and promote using the usual suspects, whether it be the Meta platform or the Google platform. They're always changing their algorithms, understandably, but it makes it very difficult for startups to be able to put money behind paid advertisements and be able to support the product line, because sometimes we get in front of 20 people or sometimes we get in front of thousands of people with our ads, and it gets very difficult for us to be able to show a return on investment. So what we've decided to do is we've realized that when you have a product that works, you tell your friends. It's really that simple. Word of mouth is very, very, very powerful, and it seems like a lot of companies go in that direction with affiliate type marketing. And that's kind of what we've done. We've launched an affiliate model on our website, and it seems to be proven to be successful thus far. Really, people, when they start getting the sleep and they comment within the first few days, wow, I've never slept so well, they tell their friends, and therefore we pay them for the referral. And that seems to be a good use of marketing money in today's world.
I completely agree. Justin, it's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been like very, very, very insightful for me personally. I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners as well. So thank you so much. Guys, this is Justin High from Rebalance Health. Justin, thanks again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.